Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about describing graphs. You're going to need your notes, pencil, and that foldable. All right, here we go. Our learning objectives today are that you can determine where a local maximum or minimum are located on graphs, that you can determine whether a graph is increasing or decreasing and state the intervals, and that you can find x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So on our foldable, this is what it looks like. You guys can cut where the red lines are, and where the green lines are, you're going to be folding that over on top of that graph, okay? So it's going to open up, and we're going to talk about these four things today. First thing that we're going to talk about the x-intercepts. The x-intercept is a point where the graph crosses the x-axis. So make sure you fill in these blanks and you fill in the graph. So we have three x-intercepts. One is at -3, 0. The next one is at 1, 0. And finally, we have one at 5, 0. The y-intercept is a point where the graph crosses the y-axis. So on this, we have one place, and it is right here at 0, 2. Now, we have our x and y intercepts. Now we're going to talk about a function is increasing on an interval if the y-axis increases as the x value increases. So here we have 2. We have 1 from there to there. And now I'm going to write the intervals here. For this, it's increasing from, down here is -infinity, and we go all the way to our x value. So our x value is -1. It's also increasing here. So it's increasing from, our x value is 3, and it goes on forever to infinity. Now a function is decreasing on an interval if the y values are decreasing and the x values are increasing. So here I have one space right here. Now this interval is going to be from here, so that's -1 all the way to here. My x value is 3. That's my interval where it's decreasing. All right, moving on over to the other side. The maximum is the y value. That's really important, the y value. So when we're talking about increasing and decreasing, we're talking about x values. When we're talking about the maximum, we're talking about the y value of the highest point on a particular region of the graph. So if we look at this, right here, this is my maximum. So my maximum is at 4. Now, the minimum, we're also talking about the y value. This is the y value of the lowest point of a particular region on a graph. So here's my lowest point, 3, -4, so my lowest point is -4. Now, this last part here, we're going to talk about zeros, roots, solutions, and intercepts are all names to describe the x value on a graph whose crossing the y value is 0. So really, we're talking about the same thing as before. We're talking about x-intercepts. X-intercepts are our zeros, roots, solutions, okay? Something to keep in mind there. All right, make sure you have all of this graph and all of your foldable filled in. Now we're going to do 2 examples. So you need to make sure you get these 2 examples written down in your notes. So draw this graph exactly as you see it, please. And then we're going to go fill in all these things over to the right. All right, we're going to start with our x-intercepts. X-intercepts where it crosses the x-axis. So I have 2 points right here and right here. When we write our x-intercepts, we're going to write them as points. So the first one's -1, 0. The second one is 3, 0. Moving on, now we're going to talk about the y-intercepts. The y-intercepts is where it crosses the y-axis, so that's going to be right here. So this one is at 0, negative 3. Now increasing and decreasing. Increasing is we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to go all the way up. Our x values and our y values are increasing. So here we talk about what the x value is. The x value is 1. So we're starting at 1. So I'll put 1. And we're going on forever in a positive direction. So we're going to go all the way to positive infinity. Now when we talk about decreasing, we're starting up high and we're working our way down to that bottom point. So we're decreasing, but we start and we don't know where we can start because it goes on forever. So we're going from negative infinity all the way to our x value again. X value, that's really important when we're talking about increasing and decreasing the x values. So we go all the way down to 1. Now, maximum minimums, we're talking about y values. Okay? So if we look, we don't have a high point. So we can put none for this one. We do have a low point, though. Our low point is right here. The low point is at the point 1, negative 4. So our maximum is, or excuse me, our minimum it's y equals negative 4. So I'm going to put both of those there. Now domain and range. This is what we've already worked on. We're going to write these in interval notation. So domain is our x values. As we can see, we have arrows on both sides. We can go on forever in any direction. So our interval is going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. Where our range is our y values, and if we look here, we never get to cross this. We never go lower than that, so our range is going to go from 4. Then we see we go on forever, so it's going to go from 4 all the way to positive infinity. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's our first example. Make sure you have all of that written down, please. Alright, moving on to example number 2. Once again, draw this graph as closely as possible to the T, and we're going to do all of the work on the right-hand side. Starting with our x-intercepts. X-intercepts. Now we have 4 x-intercepts. We're crossing the x-axis. So first x-intercept is negative 3, 0. Then we have negative 1, 0, 1, 0, and 3, 0. For our y-intercepts, where it crosses the y-axis, we only have 1. We're at 0, 9. Now remember, intervals. When we're talking about intervals, we're talking about the x's. We're talking about our x values for increasing and decreasing. So increasing, I'm going up here. So I'm starting at my x value, which is negative 2, and I'm going all the way to my x value here, which is just 0. So I'm going from negative 2 all the way to 0. Now I would go down. This one is going up as well. Starting here at 2 and going on forever. So my other one's going to be from 2 to positive infinity. Those are my increasing. Now my decreasing, where I'm going down, I'm going to start on my left side, work my way over. Going down here, if you see I'm going forever, so it's going to be from negative infinity all the way to my x value, which is negative 2. So there's 1. And then I come over here, I'm going down my x value from 0 to 2. So from 0 to 2 is my other decreasing interval. Now maximum, this time I do have a maximum. My maximum is right up here. The point is 0, 9, but I'm also going to write it as y equals 9. That's my maximum. When y is 9, that's as high as I'm going to go at a particular point. Now my minimums, I have 2 minimums. I have one here and here. So one minimum is negative 2, negative 15. The other one is 2, negative 15. But if you look at this, both of my y values are the same, so my y equals negative 15. Now, last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about domain and range. We're going to write these in interval notation. So if we look at our x values, we have arrows here. They're going to go on forever in both directions. So our domain is going to be negative infinity to infinity, or all real numbers. While our range, if we see we have this right here, we're never going past here, and we're never going past here. So our range is going to go from our lowest, which would be negative 15, all the way to positive 9. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. I hope you go out and have a wonderful day, and I will be seeing you later. Bye.